Okay, thank you. Um, well, so I would like to start by thanking for accepting my presentation. I'm going to uh, tell some stories about girls here in Mexico, especially in a small town, a very small town near Mexico City, Ixtlahuaca. It is an area where I would consider that many people would be. It's because it is an urban center. Many people do not like heavy metal. Actually, it was difficult to find all the people to interview. Actually, I talked about 8 people I was going to talk about. In the end, there were just 7 because you will notice it's a very conservative area. So I think heavy metal it's suffering in this sense. It lacks of acceptance among these people. So I decided to take the title of the album, and my approach to critical discourse analysis is in the terms of how to construct the identity via acculturation, enculturation, sorry, that's my term that I'm going to use. Well, first of all, I would like to talk about some papers which have inspired this presentation, this communication. As I was looking for female singers, Wikipedia lists only 140, but if you look into metal dark lyrics, for example, there are hundreds and thousands of bands, and this is what we have, or this is what that has been collected. So I started to look for some inspiration in this topic, and I found this in the new Cambridge Companion to Metal Music, which includes Metal in Women, Justin Wern about the power of metal in women, and this new research by heroines of heavy metal. And of course, this was by Stasio Prasad and Nena Dalova. This is what inspired me. So when I read this paper, I said, what happens in Ixtlahuaca? People around me, people who, well, I teach in a language university, so I thought that many people would be fond of heavy metal, and that's why I decided to do this. Well, so I would like to talk about these 3 terms. I'm going to explain a bit about the terms of culture, and then enculturation, and finally to end with the construction of identity. So I part from the idea that music subculture is going to be attached to cultural symbols and styles, and with these subcultures, people express themselves to represent a fit between the group's position in the social order and the social values of these participants. So they have specific ways of thinking, specific ideology, which makes them fit with the akin to each one of the members. So when talking about music subcultures, we have particular items, cultural item parallel, and reflect the structure, the style, the typical concerns, attitudes, and feelings of the group. And this is what I'm trying to get from the interviews I developed with this, I carried out with these people. And finally, so when they express their style, they are representing the resistance, the symbolic resistance in their style. So they go against what is established. So I wanted to focus on this concept if we have a music culture, we have also subcultures. So talking about linguistically talking, there is this concept of signifier. If we notice in the signifier subculture, people consider, according to anthropology, a whole way of life, maps of meaning that make the word intelligible to its members. So they have things in common, and this sub has specific connotation of distinctiveness, and they differ from the mainstream society. And of course, a subculture is going to be constituted by groups of people, of persons who share distinct values from the mainstream society, and that's what sticks, that makes them stick together in the group. Okay, so if I'm talking about constructing identity, which is a critical discourse analysis concept, we need this process, interiorizing something and learning behavioral norms, acquisition of current cosmovisions in a social group. So this means that if we have a universal culture, there must be a musical culture, then a subculture within that culture, which is in this case heavy metal. And by this process, we construct identity. So the concept of enculturation would be the way of constructing, that means the way they acquire cosmovision in a social group. The sources of listening are going to help to construct my identity regarding heavy metal. So this is what I did to collect my data. I decided to interview some girls around me. So I designed a very small interview with 5 questions about sources. That means their first approach to the genre, the role of women in heavy metal, why heavy metal, and if they have suffered something like social pressure, or what do they think about social conventions and criticism for listening in this heavy metal. And finally, their experiences in the sense of telling what they liked, what concerts have they been, favorite bands, favorite songs, etc. around them too. That means their world. So I wanted to interview 8 people. That's what I said in my summary. But in the end, there were only 7. They were aged from 13 to 42. And these are my people. So I'm going to be showing their names. Some of them are real, some of them are not. And it's interesting how they express their feelings and their way to be in the heavy metal world. So I interviewed via WhatsApp. I made an interview. I recorded the audios, and then I transcribed by organizing my keywords in 5 categories. That means the source of listening, attractiveness to the genre, how they see women in metal, their social perception, and finally how they construct their identity. So again, I'm going to start by naming each of the questions. So first of all, the source of listening. What I noticed, of course, was again, as in the paper I based on, or I was inspired, there is again a male model or a male source, and it's interesting how one of them it's influenced just by media. Okay, as far as I know, she has 3 elder brothers, and she was not influenced by them. She was influenced by the TV show by a TV show and the radio. So notice how that uncles, the brother, dad, uncle, and this is interesting. The last one says that she was inspired by her sister. but it would be interesting to know who influenced her sister. But this is interesting because it was an influence from female to female. Well, I would like to highlight these comments by Adela, who mentioned about being inspired by media. So there is a state channel in the state of Mexico where Ixtahuaca is located. It's called TV Mexiquense, and she used to watch the channel a lot. So she mentions, I have liked it since I was a child. And she said, I used to watch this TV show, Adicción Visual. And well, quoting some comments, I remember watching my first video. So this is interesting because she saw the first video by Bon Jovi, Keep the Faith. And I found it weird because of long hair and tight clothing, but it made me feel happy. Yeah, the way the music. So she said that it was kind of rude or tough, but she made her feel happy. In this show, I could know many bands like Godsmack, Mudvayne, or Typo Negative, and also the radio was another influence. This is interesting because it's not mentioning a male model, but the media. But it's interesting also to know, I can't recall who was the person presenting this show, because that must be another male model. But anyways, it's not a direct male model or male source, but the media, and it's interesting because it has much more variety to present, or that's what could be deduced from this. Okay, so what is attractive for them? I also found this. Some of the interviewees are my students here at the university, and so they are like they try not to show much about their likes, their preferences. And I decided to include them in my interview because it was 2 weeks ago when I was planning. It was for my class. I asked them to talk about their me, my linguistic me, my gastronomic me, and my musical me. And I noticed that 2 of them talked about heavy metal. So I decided to include them in this research, in this interview. Most of them are attracted by the power of music, the strength of rhythm. And well, I will have this. Olivia is 13, so she's beginning to know the genres. She says it's a strong and intense and energetic genre, and it is which attracts to the followers. And maybe this is the same reason why people don't like it, because it's strong, intense, and energetic. So many people prefer some soft things. Adela said that it's typically a strong and noisy genre. And the ones who don't know it think that this is inciting to negative actions like sex, violence, drugs, hatred. And even if some songs explicitly do so, many others don't, because they talk about history, love, literature, poetry, or they talk about criticism, political and social criticism. So it goes beyond the typical stereotypes, typical cliche about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It goes beyond when you know the people who know the genre will find this. Some people say that it's not the instrument because the guitar, a bass guitar, and song and singing can also be used in ska or other genres, she said. But in this case, it's the power and fierceness of the genre. So the style, so Alice says, the genre tries to represent other sides of life, not only love, but also, again, as Adela mentions, different topics: injustice, hatred, disappointment, human mind, something that makes us feel alive. Okay, but when questioning about how do they see women in metal, it is about there's just a few girls in this voice room. What do they think? So they say that mainly is because of stereotype based on representation and also in religion. It's a very religious society here. And the ones who are in this in this music, it's because they try to uh, transgress these laws of this society. So mostly because of stereotypes, I believe we should not tag a genre to music in general. Um, Monza says it's kind of sad that many girls are not in there because girls who like heavy metal, uh, metalheads call them posers and they find it difficult to believe it. So she said that sometimes they ask, "Are you serious? Are you serious in liking heavy metal? I don't believe you." So it is sad because of that, because these ways of thinking. And finally, there are many, not many, because of social rules. Um, Again, it is considered a boy genre, so they provide, but many women can provide talent to the music. Um, it's a cultural issue, and many girls are considered delicate, especially in Mexico, and that's why they don't prefer it. Or again, it's related to stereotypes and connected to the ways of education, upbringing. Have they been perceived? So 5 of them have never been criticized, even if there is a society. But I think it's because of they haven't expressed it a lot in their outfits. For example, they do not dress in a distinctive way, and that might be one of the reasons. And 2 of them have been criticized or questions about their likes by saying, as I told you, "Are you serious? I don't believe you." Many people are surprised because some people think that heavy metal is satanic. Again, it's also related to the conservative society. Heavy metal is satanic. You notice how it's um, repeated. But some of them, well, Liz says that some of them have changed their mind. So she has influence in some others. And well, so Adela mentions that there's no social pressure, but a questioning to likes by people who like subgenres. She mentioned subgenres to boleros, to reggaeton, or some others, pop. And metalheads are open to listen to other genre. So if you're a metal listener, so you can listen to other genres. But on the other side, people who have never, they refuse to listen because they think, and this is an a priori idea that they won't like it. They won't like it, and they close their minds to have a different, well, yeah, a different source of music. So finally, how they construct their identity. Notice, I'm not going to read everything, but notice how the bands are creating their identity, the kind of music they listen to. For Olivia, there are many cities at home where she still thinks she has never been to a concert, but she would like to go. Notice that in this case, Monse is fond of System of a Down. She likes the lyrics. She has never been to a concert because she's afraid of being hurt because of these aggressive dances. And she's going to the first concert this year. She's 21, and she's going to see Therion this October. Julie has favorite band is Slipknot, and she's also excited because it's coming to Mexico, and it's going to be her first concert as well. Notice again the bands she listens to: Korn, Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, Baby Metal. This is what I find the most interesting. I think the way Adela has been constructing her identity is all the things that she has listened, and because of this media influence, she knows she talks about more bands. Is more open to talk about bands like Sabbath, like Metallica, Tool, Dream Theater, Nightwish, and she is also referring to bands with girls like Nightwish or The Gathering, but she doesn't forget the pioneers like Janis Joplin, Susie Ford, Tina Turner, or Doro. And she has favorite bands, so I think she's most complete in her answer. So she talks about concerts and about the experience. Diana has been abroad, and for many years she has listened, and it's made her who she is, because she said that she also even has tattooed some lyrics on her skin. She has traveled to the Netherlands to see Arion, and so she is very fond of this. Liz likes progressive metal, also power metal, Halloween, and of course the classics Iron Maiden. But she considers also that heavy metal is becoming mainstream in some cases. So Ale, since she was 12, she's been fond of heavy metal, and she has even been influenced to study music professionally. Well, to close, I would like to say that I can see still a male enculturation perceived. As I close with this Diane's comment respect to the influence by my father. I sometimes felt that he wanted to transmit the music, heavy metal and progressive, because my grandpa liked it as well. So I think he considered his inheritors of the gender to us, so that he had the necessity to transmit it, and it was, of course, a way of enculturating. Some of them think that there's a sense of lack of authenticity. People feel that. You notice they like variety of genres and bands, and some people can see more than just aggressiveness, but literature, history, and political issues. And of course, self-learning and construction of identity, what Adela says, is what can be said about this. I close with this poster by the Heavy Metal Global in the Brandeis University, in which many topics about history are discussed every year, and so heavy metal is not just what people think, and that's what girls think about it. Thank you very much.